And I'm going to be covering a few things today that we're excited to introduce and walk through. And just a few housekeeping items, same as usual in terms of everybody's muted. But if you do have a question, feel free to incorporate that in the chat box. Anything comes up that you want to know more about, and then we will go ahead and get started. So if Maggie, whenever you're ready, if you want to set up this screen share. And let's get that going. Meg, if you don't mind, go ahead and if you could set up that PowerPoint for me, and then I'll take over to go over the new resource center, if that works for you.
Yeah, I'll get that pulled up really quickly.
Okay.
I don't know.
Callie, I'm having a hard time getting that pulled up.
No worries. I just went ahead and took care of it now, so we're good to go. Okay. Everybody see my screen? Maggie, can you confirm that?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. We'll go ahead and present. So, first off, I want to go ahead and say a big welcome to the Harrisonburg market. We are proud and very glad to have them on board and joining our efforts as we grow with Saga digitally and expanding that growth. So welcome Harrisonburg. They're going to be joining our Friday morning calls each week to learn a little bit more and grow. I will also say that they started off with a pretty big splash this week. They went ahead and looks like they're going to be already securing a pretty big book of business with Green Valley Book Fair, display, geofencing, social, and ways. So big congratulations to Nancy and the team over there in Harrisonburg. Looks like we're going to roughly around 30,000, 10,000 a month for those following tactics, which will be getting started probably in the next few weeks. So congratulations, Nancy and her team, and glad to have you guys a part of our digital MediaBeast team. Moving on, I do want to take note of some other great accomplishments that we've been seeing from market to market. We'll start with Asheville. They've already sold around $21,000 of new business. Morrison Automotive, mostly automotive. That's pay-per-click, SCM, and it looks like they also have some business coming in for a recruitment campaign. So great job, Asheville, with new business coming in. Also going to highlight our team in Charleston. Looks like we sold $15,000 for social media advertising with Ink Talk Radio. And I know that they also have a lot of verbal green light commitments. It's just a matter of finalizing everything on the dotted line for a few other contracts as well, Mosquito Hound and Mill Street Tavern. And also our team with Charlottesville, I know they've been working hard, the group over there. We had a good meeting with Rebecca's Natural Food Store for SEO and Harper's Insurance. I know that's hopefully going to be a great opportunity as well, and along with Madison County tourism effort. So great job all around when we're highlighting some of that business that's been coming in recently, and also a lot of the activity with proposals and recommendations. And it sounds like we've got a lot of folks in that funnel that we're looking to move forward. So the next thing I wanted to highlight here is the Resource Center. I know a lot of you, we went through the Resource Center each time we introduced that. It was at the very beginning when we were kind of starting our onboarding processes with Saga. And so I think now is a good time where we've taken the time to hear from you, see what's working, what's not working, and we've made some updates. It's actually going to be a new page, the Saga Communications page. We want it to be a one-stop shop, if you will, for each individual market. It's something that we're really proud of, but the goal here is we want it to be a resource throughout the entire sales process. So as we go through it, you'll see some things that are familiar, but I also want to highlight some of the new additions we've made, really wanting it to be a useful tool as you're navigating the sales process. So go ahead and jump in here. So saga-communications at themediabeast.com. Really, number one is user-friendly. There's a lot of information here, and it can be pretty overwhelming when you're trying to navigate, I just need this one sheet, or I just need login credentials, or what was that Google Analytics email, or I just need to submit a request to the MediaBeast. So the idea here is that this is going to be your menu navigating you through each portion of the page. We have the audit tools. Again, I think a lot of our team is familiar with this. It's that foot in the door opportunity where you have that prospect in mind. Let's go ahead and utilize what we have with the SpyFu in addition to that SEO Optima report that is branded, and as well as a directory scan. Next, we're going to go into the Google grant. As you guys have known, we've taken a lot of time to really highlight this great opportunity and oftentimes missed opportunity for those 501(c)(3)s. And everything is here that you would need. Want to make it, again, user-friendly. So you've got that Google Grant slide deck. A lot of you have seen it. Again, it's going to walk you through the basics of what is the Google Grant? What's it all about? How do I sign up? How does it benefit me? So a good overview as to what it is and how it works. In addition to that 501(c) checker to qualify that prospect to see if they fall into that category. We've also taken a little bit of time, I know Maggie touched on this during one of our previous calls, is to cover case studies. Again, from my experience a few years ago in the marketing sales arena, for me, the case studies really did, it equated the opportunity to the client. It got that ability to say, okay, this is of interest. I'm not quite sure. It was able to push the needle forward for a lot of those potential clients that we had. And case studies, we've done a lot of good research, and we have such a great nonprofit clientele that they've really been able to see those results. So I know you guys have seen the Children's First case study. We've also included the Seacoast Church, very prominent church, especially here in the Low Country in South Carolina, and showcasing what we've been able to do and how they've been able to grow using this grant. Included within here is the Kawasaki Kids Foundation, talking about how we've also taken those dollars and that growth and what we've seen with paid search as being that #1 traffic channel quarter over quarter. So again, some great resources here when we talk about case studies. The next item on the list are the one sheets, that material that you want to be able to pull, whether it's sitting down with a client, being able to get that client to respond, just give them the material. Here's just a quick overview of what SEO is all about, or a quick overview as to Yelp ads. So we laid it out where, again, user-friendly access, easily identifiable, where you can pull these one sheets and present within a proposal individually as well, or if you just need to get some information to send over to the client. We've added some new ones, and that's something important to know as well. I think we started with roughly maybe 8, 10, something of that nature. And as we've grown with Saga and seen those opportunities where we can streamline that communication, because just as we're training on these tactics Matt does every Friday, we're also wanting to showcase what that is. So being able to provide the resources and material that's going to be backing up what we presented here. I'm just going to stop for a second and see if anybody has any questions so far. Okay, we'll keep going. And I think we'll have some questions probably when we follow up in regards to fulfillment request. A few others that I did want to highlight here is the Google Analytics. This is a new one that we've added. It seems when we're having these conversations, Google Analytics can obviously be a foreign concept. I know in many cases the Google Analytics can be correlated with Google My Business, which is two very different things. But in those situations where we do a baseline or you use the tools that we've provided, whether it's the SEO Optimer or the SpyFu, and we've gathered some really good information. And as we've learned, we see that we're maybe ranking really well for branded keywords like their name, ABC Plumber, but we see some opportunities. They're missing some alt tags. There's not quite the backlinks. We're getting a lot of traffic from India. So again, that audit process drives those questions. And this is a good opportunity where you can put the Google Analytics in front of that potential client to say, let's take a deeper dive. We're only scratching the surface here. We're able to identify some opportunities and really some questions that we have. We'd like to be able to uncover those answers. And this is a good one sheet that really demonstrates that. This is what we found within our audit process, but we'd like to take it to the next step. And as you guys know, everybody's always asking, what's the next step? What's the next step? So this is a good opportunity to showcase that. Can we take a peek inside? Do you have your conversion goals set up? What's driving the most traffic, especially for those clients that do have pay-per-click already, or that prospect that has pay-per-click? Let's see how that's performing, because in a lot of cases, those conversions aren't set up properly, and we're able to really uncover a lot of good information. Something else I want to highlight here too is we've also, I think you all know, that have set your clients up with the Google Analytics account for the Saga markets, that previously it was individually, Saga Charleston, Saga Charlottesville, but we wanted to, again, streamline that, make it easy, sagacommunicationsonline@gmail.com. So just to preface, for those of you who have already set up analytics read-only access, I know there was one in Charleston, Wagner Vision. That's great, and that was awesome, and we're diving into those numbers, and it's still there. But moving forward, just to keep it, again, turnkey and easy for the team, Saga Communications Online. We also just recently added the display advertising one sheet. Again, another good opportunity here to showcase what is display advertising. Again, it can get obviously very convoluted when you're talking about contextual display, geofencing, addressable. So this is a good way to break those down. And as we wrap up some of the one sheets, I'll just take a little break here and see if Maggie, anybody, we have some, we'll go into the chat box here.
So the Charleston team is asking if the one sheets will be branded with the market-specific logos.
That's a great question. And that was recently brought up to us not too long ago after we put this together. We still wanted to present this, all of these great resources and these one sheets, but that is something that we're working towards. As you can see, that would take a little bit of time to brand it individually. Definitely don't mind doing that. We're in the works to individualize these per market, but for now, wanted to at least utilize the resources that we have and not slow down the process with utilizing these one sheets that are already branded for Saga. But duly noted, and that was recently brought up as something that we'd want to do in the very near future to brand it for each market. Good question.
Another question we have is the password for this portal here.
Saga, S-A-G-A, another great question. S-A-G-A, capital S-A-G-A. So when we get off the meeting today, we'll send this link over to the managers of each market so they have it and they can distribute the link just to make sure it's saved, bookmark, in addition to that password. Another item that I wanted to touch on, you've got your supporting sales documents as well. So with supporting sales documents, obviously these are going to be a little different than what we have in regards to one sheets. That one sheet materials that you can have that are referencing the tactics, the supporting sales documents, covering a lot of the basics that we have in previous Friday meetings. But one item that I did want to cover, and some of you might be familiar with this, is the online strategy request form, AKA the OSR. We've talked about it quite a few times, and you'll see here shortly how we've digitized the OSR to make it easy for you guys submitting anything that you need to our team. We wavered, should we include this or not? You know, some people like to have paper, others don't. The idea behind having this included on the resource page is to have that in front of you when you're having the conversation. And we can brand this for Saga. That's not a problem at all. But the idea is to have this in front of you as that talking points. I know for me, I'm a writer. And so I do my best, obviously, when I'm having that CNA with the client, whether it's virtually or in process. You want to be attentive. You want to absorb everything. There's a lot of good data coming at you. And being able to take notes, I would always have to write everything down. This is a good way to, again, have this in front of you and make sure that we're hitting those points of what we do need to be able to transition from that CNA, client needs analysis with the meeting, into getting that proposal and that recommendation. I think a few of you have heard us asking those additional questions just because if we know their goals, if we know some of those pain points or their objectives, it really allows us to take a really, here's a proposal into a customized strategic recommendation that's going to be specific to them. And we want to try to continue to keep that customization flowing as much as possible. So this idea being that you can have this document, download it, write on it, mark it up as a guide when you're having those conversations with your client, just to get the necessary information that's helpful to be able to submit it back to our team and allow us to get a really strong recommendation and proposal. So we'll scoot back over there. Next, this all looks the same, most recent training videos. We just added the one that we did the other week for OTT and CTV, keeping in mind that these are recorded so that folks that weren't able to make it or joining for the first time can access it. I know that one in particular had a lot of good information. Even our team with Chris was, every time we talk with him as our partner, we're always learning something new. So a good way to access previous meetings and calls that have been recorded. Any other questions before we go on to the fulfillment request? I do want to highlight, and Mary Ellen brought up a good point, that it was $18,000 for mostly automotive and Morrison. Thank you, Mary Ellen. You're doing a fantastic job in Asheville. I know she's got a few other things that are in the hopper looking to convert pretty quickly. So thank you for pointing that out. That's a good idea. I want to just reference the ability to navigate through this as well. So you're using your menu throughout the process. Before we go into the fulfillment request, did want to highlight the login credentials. So there are going to be items that are market specific in addition to the new marketing material that we put together. But the NinjaCat dashboard, being able to access that. I know for some of you who already have those clients in and are kind of going through the steps of what does that campaign look like? Now that we've sold them and we've initiated that pay-per-click campaign, what next? So as Mary Ellen and a few of others have learned, we really have a great resource within the NinjaCat dashboard that I'm sure we'll cover on an upcoming meeting that goes through all the numbers that can be shared with your client, conversions, and really be able to track that progress from month to month. So accessing the white labeled NinjaCat dashboard is going to be client specific, and that's here based off of market. In addition to, as you've seen before with the Google Analytics, that how-to guide that's easy, again, just to send off to the client who might be unsure of how to provide read-only access to their Google Analytics account, as well as the pay-per-click word stream budget generator. So we go ahead and go into the fulfillment request. So this is going to be, again, a super easy way to make sure we're getting all the information, you're adding all the information that we need to be able to provide whatever resources it may be and be a part of that sales process. So simple as inputting your information. As you can see, this is something that the account executives will complete. Name, email, market, Asheville. So we'll use Asheville as an example. The first one is going to be the meeting request. And you can see here the business name as well as the type of meeting request. So when we look at meeting requests, we see two different options here and two different types of meetings. We've been on a variety of types of meetings, and we love being a part of those conversations with prospects and clients to help move the needle forward. And we see it split up into those two categories. So, and they're pretty different. You've got that CNA meeting where we're helping to uncover some of those needs, those goals, objectives. And we see that a lot, especially with prospects for Google Grant, really being able to work and be a part of that meeting and work with the account executive to ask those questions. And I think a lot of you, I know, Alex, hopefully you can relate to this, but I'm sure that she, in addition to a lot of other reps, have picked up a lot of really good information as you hear our team members asking those questions and really diving deep to get the information that we need to move that sales process forward. Second option is the proposal recommendation. So understanding that this is going to be something that we're going to be presenting. And we want to make sure, again, that we have all the necessary information to do that. CNA needs analysis. And again, this just helps us prep prior to. So you pick your appointment day, your appointment time, submit. Next is going to be the budget recommendation. And that budget recommendation translating into proposal. That's where we're auditing, but we're also making those specific recommendations. And as you probably learned, an audit just based off of a URL is very different from a proposal recommendation based off of this is a new business. They don't have a logo. Should we go with a landing page? Here are their goals. Here's their service lines. Here's those unique opportunities or differentiators. And once we have all that information, now we're really rocking it with a strong proposal. So this is what similar items that you've seen before. I know with maybe the Charleston market, we had an online OSR, and that's exactly what this is, an online strategy request form. Getting the business URL, the campaign proposed start date, talking about those specific services and products that your client wants to focus. What are those campaign goals? Estimated budget. I know a lot of times, and again, that's something that hopefully we can obtain that you see in that PDF document with obtaining during the client needs analysis. A lot of times it's hard to really get an idea, and sometimes they just don't even know. But getting a range to find out, if they like geofencing campaign, if they want to hit a huge DMA, well, you're going to need a little bit of a larger budget, or maybe their goals are more specific and zip code based. Then we can work with that budget. So having that budget conversation is pretty important because it allows us to see what are the best use of those dollars. And as it's for us when we're customizing these proposals and going through these strategy request form, where can we get the biggest bang for our buck? And same idea with radio. You want to make sure that we're not just spreading ourselves thin with a limited budget across a variety of different day parts, but what's the strategy here? How are we going to use those dollars? So again, if we don't know the exact budget, an estimated budget helps us to make sure that we're using those dollars to the best of our ability to get the biggest return. Target audience. It can be zip codes. It can be demographic, especially when we talk about display, social media advertising. It is really helpful. The more specific audience that we have, then our strategy becomes a little bit different. So getting as much information in terms of what that ideal customer looks like, or even a profile of that customer, is helpful. Google Analytics access, yes or no. As you've heard us say quite a few times, always important to move the needle forward and provide really good insight into what's happening with their campaign, especially if they are using another type of digital advertising. We don't ever want to insult or tell them their baby's ugly. That's the best way to reference it when you're looking at their Google Analytics, and trying not to offend their current digital provider, whoever might be handling that, but we can do so in a way where we can identify those opportunities within Google Analytics. Additional details. I know, again, time is of the essence. You want to get this information off so that you can get something quickly back in return and present it in front of the client, because we understand time is also an issue. When you're delaying that proposal, it might not be as hot of a prospect. So, but at the same time, the more details that we get, the better. So just taking the time to, even if you're just throwing conversationally, just typing like a maniac, what was kind of the gist? What did you learn from the client? What are specific pain points? What did he say that really kind of caught your interest, he or she? So the more the better, to be able to develop a really strong proposal. So that is the budget recommendation. Then you have the Google Analytics audit where, again, maybe we're not ready for that proposal recommendation where we're putting dollars, but we want to, again, take a peek behind the curtain and see where those opportunities lie with Google Analytics. Insertion order. I know some reps, obviously sales managers, have had the joy of learning about that process, and we'll spend another meeting kind of going through that, but a very simple process of just uploading that document here with the insertion order. And then last but not least is campaign update. So again, you can kind of see the timeline here from start to finish as we move these leads into clients and continuing client accounts. There are going to be those campaign updates and changes, and we want this portal and this opportunity that we have here to be that segue of communication. I need to pause the campaign because they're going to be closed for spring break for whatever reason. I need to add these keywords. We're looking at updating these zip codes. So a variety of reasons for any types of updates or change that might be requested, and that would be done here. So whenever these are submitted, again, by the account executive, they're going to go to that corresponding market point person, whether it's a sales manager, whomever that's been designated to get these. That sales manager and point person is going to forward it to our team, just so they are in the know, in the loop as to what's coming through, and if there's any questions or loopholes that need to be filled in. The same line of communication, once we receive these, notifying you and having that two-way communication between that support, the MediaBeast email address. So go ahead and pause and also take a minute or two to see if there's any questions, feedback, thoughts that the team wants to share. I don't know if I can see the chat. Maggie, do we have any chat feed? There we go.
Nothing in the chat right now.
Okay. So I hope we're going to wrap up a little bit early, but idea being that we want this to be something that you can use from the very beginning of that sales process all the way through, to be that go-to reference if you need to pull a guide, a one-sheet, a resource, a case study that you can always have in your back pocket, accessible for moving that client forward. Because what we've seen, especially as we've grown with our client base, is that you become the apostle status, as we like to call it, where you can be able to, you're not just selling, but you're educating them through. What is the difference between geofencing, addressable display? What's the best fit for you? We want to continue to be able to have these trainings where we can coach you through that process, but also have a place where you can go to reference those things and communicate with us. So it's going to be an evolving page and obviously an evolving resource panel, but hopefully you guys can see it's a little bit more user-friendly than what we've had in the past, and we're going to continue to add to it so you have what you need. And appreciate any feedback or thoughts that come our way, but once we wrap up the call, we'll send this to each market along with that passcode, Saga, so everybody have in place. So I hope that everybody has a wonderful Friday. We're looking forward to going into the next quarter. Welcome, Harrisonburg. Thank you for joining us today, and we will talk soon. Take care.
Thanks, Tally.